I'm Greg, and you're listening to Totally Preventable.
Totally preventable.
Totally preventable.
Totally preventable. Totally preventable.
Totally preventable.
Totally preventable.
Oh, hey, Greg.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Spring has finally sprung.
Yes, finally.
Finally.
A
Yeah.
lot of warmer,
A little bit. Yeah.
not in so many layers.
Yeah. Still a little damp, spring
Yeah.
in New England, but
Good old New England. By the way.
yeah. Who have we got today?
So today we actually have a part 2.
Really?
So yes, we had the Center for Online Safety on a little while back,
Mhm.
and had such a great conversation and we wanted to steer it a little more towards social media this time. So we have Lisa Hanold. She's the director of the Center for Online Safety, and she's back for part 2.
Awesome. Awesome. Can't wait to hear what she says about social media.
Yeah, that's
Huge topic. We could go on forever.
forever.
Mhm.
Finding a lot out about social media. I'm curious to know about the different types out there. So different apps. So without further ado. And today joining us on Totally Preventable for our first part 2. Since part 1, we didn't get everything out and we just had to have her on again. We have Lisa Hanold, the director for the Center for Online Safety. Lisa, thank you for joining us. We had to continue this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on board again.
I am excited to be the first part 2 guest. This is awesome. Good to see you both.
Thank you. Can you just briefly, for those who just need to be refreshed, can you briefly give us just a quick rundown, a quick bio of you and the Center for Online Safety?
Sure. Yeah, I established the Center for Online Safety about 6 years ago now. Before that, I was working with parents individually in positive discipline conversations. How do I, get everyone on the same page? How do I do this without using punishment? And, the way a lot of us grew up, how do I change my parenting style? And what I noticed was that just about every conversation was drifting into screen time. What do I do with screen time? Whether your child was 5 or 15, parents had questions, and there weren't a lot of great spaces to get good, solid information that was based in positive discipline. And so Center for Online Safety developed, and now I travel the country and talk to parents and educators about this idea that we can ramp up slowly. We can give kids training wheels before they get the keys to the Ferrari when it comes to technology. So it's not a question of, do they have technology or not? It's taking baby steps toward letting them be more independent over time.
And last time Lisa was on, we did a lot of talking about just online in general. There was some gaming, there was smartphones, there were apps, but we wanted to gear a little more towards social media online, seeing that it's the big craze. It's what everyone's doing. I mean, there's not a device that I know of that's on Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever the case is that doesn't have some sort of social media app.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'd like to ask, what would you rank as the top, let's say 4 social media apps that you noticed?
That teens are using?
Yes.
Okay, Instagram is still right up there at the top. And that's an app that's known for beautiful pictures, curated pictures. It's mostly photo-based. There's a lot of filters on there too. And that tends to be the one that there's external pressure to use filters, beauty filters, to make yourself look different, look perfect, in quotes. That Instagram is still up there. Snapchat is also right up there. And that tends to be the messaging, the one-on-one or the group messaging platform. They have a lot of funny filters. It's not so much pressure to be perfect on there. TikTok, I'm mentioning TikTok number 3, but that is the absolute number 1. It's the most downloaded app. And it is also the most dependence-driven or addictive app out there, just based on algorithms and how they're showing content to a person. Super addictive. Also very fun. That's video-based, short video-based information on everything. Kids don't tend to YouTube things anymore. They go to TikTok first. It's the younger person's version of how-to videos, documentary type videos, all the way to entertainment. And let's see, the 4th Discord is also up there. That's started as a gaming platform, and it's moved into the mainstream chats and different topic-based conversations. So those are four. Let's see, what am I forgetting? I can't think of what I'm forgetting. There's another one.
So I'm sure it's not the most popular, but I am hearing that Yik Yak is coming back. Have you heard that?
Yeah. Yeah. There are several anonymous apps where you don't have to put your name in and be accountable for what you say on platforms. Those are, of course, dangerous for adults and kids who are using them, because people tend to not hold back when they're not accountable, when there's no name attached. Yeah, there's like the first level social media that has all of the normal risks and harms and benefits, right? There's lots of benefits. And then there's this other level that is extremely dangerous when it comes to having kids on there getting cyberbullied, just because of the nature of the platform. They don't want names attached. Therefore, you're going to get more bullying and more mean, rude, hateful comments.
Mhm.
Right.
How truthful do you think teens are when creating their online profiles on social media?
It's a good question. Honestly, I don't know how truthful they are. Part of it would depend on what their parent allows, right? If they're sneaking social apps to begin with, they're probably also raising their age so they don't have to deal with filters and things. I don't know how, when they're setting things up, if they're being truthful about the age or not. What I do know is that all the platforms know that there are underage users out there. To use social media, you're supposed to be 13 years old or older. And all the platforms know, just based on what kids are posting, they'll say something like, I'm in 4th grade, or it's my 11th birthday on the platform. All these platforms know that there are underage users out there. And right now they're not doing much about it. This is a big year in Congress to talk about things like that and hopefully take some action so that there are stricter rules and kids who are underage do not have access to potentially harmful content that they're not ready for.
Mm. Now, I've seen reports that have said that the average teen spends 2 hours on social media a day.
It's way more than that. It's way more than that. And going back to your idea that, there's no social media would be a good number. I like social media. I think it's appropriate at certain times. And I'm not here to, to down the benefits. A lot of kids, especially during pandemic, it was a lifeline to have a community that understood them, that was there for them. It was a lifeline. So I don't want to get the impression that I am anti-social media. I'm anti how it is right now, without enough parental controls and enough filters to keep harmful content from kids. Going back to your question, I don't think most kids or adults know how long they're on social media, because it's insidious, right? As notifications go off, you go and check one thing, and then you're on there for 20 minutes and you meant to be on there for 2. And then 5 minutes later, you're doing your homework and something else happens and you got to check in with a friend on Snapchat. It's throughout the day. When I talk to kids now, 5 years ago, they would have said, 2 or 3 hours. When I talk to them today, they're like, I don't even know, because every time I get a notification, I get on there for just a second. And so it's a mystery, unless they're using something like Screen Time or Google Family Link that gives you a wellness check, a digital wellness check. At the end of the week, you get a report. That's how you can know how much your apps were open. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good reality check, because, kids may say, I'm on there maybe an hour and I just flip in and out and it's no big deal. But then they look at their report at the end of the week, which doesn't lie, and they realize, oh, it was actually 5 hours on Instagram. Whoa, this could be a problem.
I see that happening. Sometimes at night, I'll just lay in bed and scroll. And I go to bed fairly early, and I'll just scroll for 15 minutes. And I look and I'm like, what? It's already, 8:30.
It happens to the best of us, and these apps are made to do that. There's a reason that the scroll never ends. We get curious and we have to see that next post. That's psychology. These people know us so well. That's psychology. We just want to go on and on to the next one, and we lose time not realizing that we've even done this until after the fact. Like you said, oh my gosh, it's 30 minutes later. How did I do that? Yeah, these are built to keep us on their platform. That's how they make money. Keep us on their platform.
It's amazing.
So I think I know the answer, but I'll ask. Do you think teenagers can become addicted to social media?
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Anyway.
Again, there are a lot of psychological triggers. There's this hit of adrenaline that happens if you have a post and lots of people are liking it. If you get a lot of new followers, there are many social reasons that this could get addictive just by the nature of, again, how it's built, how it's set up, how it's designed. There are design flaws when it comes to kids and keeping them on task for the rest of their day, versus the pull that social media has for many kids, just because it is social, because you can go back in and check your posts and see how many people like them and what the comments were. And there's just a lot of reasons that it can get addictive. Yeah. And the word that I like better than addictive, because there's a medical definition of addiction, is dependent. And I think many of us, adults and kids, are dependent on phones.
Do you think girls are more dependent on social media than boys?
I think that they're drawn to it for different reasons. I don't know that anyone would have an easy time not being on it for a week. There was a really cool study that just came out asking teens if they would be willing to leave their tech at home for the weekend and go to a deserted island with their friends. If their friends had all of their technology and they were the only ones that couldn't bring it, would they still go to this beautiful deserted island and hang out with their friends for the weekend? It was an interesting question. The answer that most teens said was, no, no, I will not, because I'm going to be left behind. I'm not going to know what's going on. They're going to be scrolling. I'm going to be there on this deserted island, not knowing what to do. But when you change the question to, okay, nobody has their phones, you still get to go to the deserted island, you still have all your friends there. Most teens, over half the teens, said, yeah, I will totally ditch my phone for the weekend if I get to be with my friends on this island. It'd be awesome. So I think what teens are telling us is that, yes, we see the value in having screen-free time sometimes. The problem is it only really works if I know my friends aren't on it too. Like I see the benefit, but unless everybody's doing the same thing, I know I'm going to miss out, and I know I'm not going to catch something that everybody else knows right away.
Right. Well, that would stink. Everyone was doing something and you were just left out.
Right.
Anyway, yes.
Exactly. That whole FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah.
That leads right to my next question. How can you really explain to parents that fear of missing out that teen is so dependent upon? Like, even in your example, I'll leave my phone if everybody else is leaving their phone. But if somebody else has the opportunity to see what else is going on, like I would never do that. So can you explain to parents just that the importance of fear of missing out? Some who maybe just be thinking it's a cool catchphrase, but it's an actual thing.
Yeah, and this is important because a lot of parents will take the phone as a punishment when, kids come home late from curfew or something happens that's not really related to phones specifically. But, it's not how we grew up. It's not a tool. It is an extension of themselves. You think about how a kid who's 15, when they were born, their parents probably had smartphones and were documenting everything on video and photos, images. And so one of the earliest memories is probably parents having their phones close, all the good memories, taking pictures. And, when a kid was 2 or 3, probably you wanted to take mom or dad's phone and do the swiping yourself and find out more about what that was like. It's a different world now, to have phones since birth as an important part of the family, basically. They grow up from the time that they're little seeing phones as, this really cool privilege. And it's important to notice how generations have changed. We did not grow up this way.
Mhm.
And we can't understand how important they are for relationships, for everything in the world that they're growing up in.
Right.
One of the other things we've been talking about actually in the office lately is body positivity and how much social media can affect that. Can you explain that maybe for parents, why our young people might be suffering from body positivity issues and perfection issues around social media?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because there are so many influencers that kids follow, adults follow too, with this message that you have to be perfect, that your waist has to be a certain size, that your eyelashes have to be a certain length, that your abs have to be 6-pack abs, whether following sports people or models or any other kind of influencer. Between that and the filters that are out there that make it easy to change just slightly. If you think your nose is too long, you can just push it in a little. If you think your cheeks aren't blushy enough, you can make them contoured and blushed. And there's so many ways that you can change yourself and get comments that you're doing the right thing, whether it's dieting or filters or any of that. Part of it is that you have access to filters and influencers. Part of that is that on the backside, you're getting comments from friends and from people. Oh, you look great. Oh, your waist is so cinched in. Oh, this and that. There are a lot of feedback loops on the backside. And as far as the algorithms work on social media, when you start looking at an influencer who's known for diet culture or extreme diet culture, what happens? You get 50 more of those videos coming at you because you watched it. They want you to keep your eyeballs on that screen. So whatever you're stopping, pausing, and watching, the algorithm notices and says, oh, they really want to see more of this. It's not even necessarily that you like it. It's that it's intriguing. You're curious. You can't look away. Any of those things can also be sort of the trigger. You keep watching and then you get more of the same back.
What would you give as advice for a teen who may be dependent upon social media, a teen who's following that influencer, who knows that, I don't want this, but I can't stop looking? What advice would you give to that teen who wants to step away or step down from so much social media viewing?
First piece of advice is, it's a really great question. First piece of advice would be to find some friends who feel the same way. Start talking about it, because when you have more than one person doing the same thing, it's a lot easier. So if you're noticing that your feed is toxic, or some of the people that are popping in are not helping your mental health, and the easy answer is stop following them, right? I think the first answer, though, is to find a group that supports you, whether they're online or at high school, middle school, wherever you are. Have a group that feels the same way. Ooh, this person's getting really toxic. Ooh, I don't want to follow this anymore. I'm feeling really bad about myself. To notice how you're feeling about yourself. The thing that social media doesn't do is give you time for self-reflection. It is so focused on what other people are doing and trying to frame yourself in the best light possible, that you don't have that inner, how am I doing? Am I achieving my goals? Am I doing what needs to be done so that I'll be happy at the end of the day? Because what we know is scrolling social media doesn't make us happy. It's a time filler, but it's not a happiness generator. So also being aware of emotions and how you feel at the end of the day. If you're exhausted and kind of just blah, and you've been on social media a lot, those two things are correlated.
It was hard for me to realize that same thing. Like I don't even know if I was dependent or addicted to, but I remember feeling a certain way after viewing social media, feeling a certain way about myself. So I can just imagine what our teens and our youth are going through. But it took me a while to attribute how I was feeling to social media. I would just think, oh, I was tired, or oh, that I would not put the blame on social media. And even when you were mentioning about blocking, I remember I just followed a grilling channel. And before long, I was like, well, I should be grilling more. Why am I not grilling more? I was feeling about myself for not grilling more. And it's just like, so
How's the grilling going?
again, I'm looking at a new grill because I'm feeling like, I need this. I blocked them, or stopped following them and and then found myself needing that. I wanted to see it. So then I started following them again, and then I followed two other ones, and then it's if you look at my feed,
intervention, grilling intervention.
I just but so I could see how that advice is great advice, but I can also understand along with the youth that it's a pretty difficult thing. And here I am an adult, but to find another youth or a peer who is willing to say, you know what, I want to step away from that too, could be tough.
Let's just grill in real life together.
There we go.
Right.
There we go.
We've also been talking about how I guess girls mostly, how accurate is the acceptance of your friends. I don't know if I'm articulating this right. We talk a lot about eyelashes and how, like, the bigger the eyelashes, everyone thinks are great, but how often have you ever said, oh, I love that person, their eyelashes are so long and beautiful, or that person's awesome because their waist is so narrow. How we feel like it's really the young people thinking of that, needing that acceptance of themselves, where probably most of their peers don't have those same thoughts about these appearance issues that they think are so great. Did that make sense?
Yeah. We were talking about how in our research and with our youth groups, we're seeing that a lot of the teen girl social media users are looking for that approval from other teen girl social media users based off of things they think the teen boy social media users are looking for, when in actuality, it's not the boy acceptance that they're looking for. They want more of the girl acceptance.
Yeah.
I believe that's what you're saying.
Yes. Yes. It's a weird concept because, but I think that a lot of young people don't realize that people will accept them and like them for other things than what their social media looks.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You see this a lot. Hold on just a second.
Although I am going to say one day I'm going to come in here with big giant eyelashes.
Oh, we should plan it. We should all do it.
Right? I'll have to get up early because I imagine it's going to take me a long time to get on there. I'll have to have someone else drive me to work because I'll be like,
You're talking extreme eyelashes. Yes.
I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna go big.
The concept is interesting because who's driving all of this? Who's driving all of this?
Right.
It's so bizarre to think that you need to look older, sexier, filtered to have friends or get comments or be social. And yet that's how it's going.
Yeah.
It's a scary concept.
It is. You have a young daughter. I would be very scared.
Thanks.
I have young adult daughters. I'm still scared, but they're adults, so, but, oh, I know, it's tough.
It is very hard trying to figure out those doors when, as a parent, it's time to step in.
Hmm.
What would you say would be a good accurate time? I mean, you don't want to be reactive, but you don't want to jump the gun either. You want to give your kids some leeway, but when would you say is a good time for a parent to start to intervene?
Always. I mean, ideally, prevention starts at birth, and you are talking about things as age appropriate. You're bringing things up. One of my favorite things to recommend is when you're watching a TV show and something comes up that's inappropriate, to stop it and say, oh my gosh, did you see what just happened there? What do you think about that? Like have news articles and have TV and cultural things and have real things to talk about so that kids do soak in the values from an early age. And it's not a one and done conversation. It's a, osmosis through time conversation that changes as they get older and can handle more information. I would say there's not a time that you shouldn't be doing this from the time they're little. And of course, it changes over time, the amount of intervention and parenting you do versus coaching and question asking, right? As kids move from elementary to middle school, if you try to be the same parent you were when they were in third grade and could tell them, hey, how about your coat? Don't forget your lunch today. If you try to be that same parent in middle school, it doesn't work very well because they want to be more independent. And, the coaching type questions, the asking questions and, hey, what do you think about this? I just saw this. Do you know anything about it? Those types of questions tend to work better just because you're treating them as someone with independent thoughts and opinions, and you really want to know more about how they're feeling. At the same time, you can still say, ooh, tell me more about this outfit. You can still ask questions and have a level of conversation around it, but it's different than when they're little for sure.
Do you think it's appropriate for parents to follow or friend or check in on their kids' social media?
Oh my gosh, yes. You should be following. Don't comment. For goodness sakes, don't embarrass them to death. But you should definitely be following their accounts. You should know how many accounts they have because there are lots of kids who have 2 or 3 or 4 Instagram accounts.
Mhm.
And just be stealthy on there. Don't say anything. The expectation that you can go through their phone is one that I think is healthy and appropriate, because if there are things on there that are embarrassing, if mom would see or dad would see or caregiver would see, they shouldn't be on there, right? They should not be on there. And it's a chance to check in and make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing. And the other piece of this, so there's like the human-based filtering, monitoring, and there's the tech-based filtering and monitoring. So I think I recommend everyone at home have a filter on their internet so that they don't get all of the junk in the front door. And also use a technology tool to help monitor inappropriate comments, inappropriate pictures that are coming through, whether your child's sending or receiving. It's important to know if all of a sudden the eggplant emoji is coming up way more than it should. You need to know that and have a conversation about, whoever's sending, or if they're sending, what is the purpose of this? What are you doing? This doesn't feel appropriate. What's going on?
So should it be an agreement that you as a parent are allowed to follow if you're going to have your teen download the app?
Yes, it is never too late to set up a technology contract or agreement. The ideal time to do it is before they get their first phone, because they are so anxious and excited to get this phone that they'll sign just about anything, but really have a conversation about, these are the expectations. We really want to take baby steps. And right now, this is what we're comfortable with. How do you feel about this? It's a give and take negotiation. but having it in writing, having both sides sign it and then update it as, maybe you start with one social media account and then in 3 months you go to 2. So there's like a step ladder of privileges that they get as long as they're showing responsibility. So I love the idea of a technology contract. If your kids already have phones, it's not too late. You can go back and say, hey, we're learning new things. We did not know some things that were pretty critical. And now that we do, we understand that having an agreement with you just makes a lot of sense. It's going to make life easier instead of harder. And these are the things that are non-negotiable. Phone stays out of the bedroom, non-negotiable. That's the number one thing. And then, I have access to your phone when it's appropriate, when I think it's time to check it. And so those are the 2 non-negotiables. Everything else is flexible. I mean, how often you want them to have their phones, if homework and chores need to be done first, that's all conversations. But the 2 big ones are what I just said.
Should the consequence be negotiated as well?
Yeah, what's appropriate?
Okay. Okay.
For sure.
You think they should have a say in whatever a consequence would be as well?
What's the harm?
And I'm not there yet.
The more that they have a voice, the less they feel like they need to go around you and get sneaky. And that's what we don't want.
That's right.
I'd like to add, because you mentioned, eggplant emojis and pictures receiving and
Yeah.
sent, but that Greg especially has done a lot of research around emojis linked to drug use and
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
So know your emojis. As scary as some of them are, they're out there, and I think anything is accessible on social media these days.
For sure. Yeah, that kind of leads into the DEA has done a lot of work in emojis, and they've published, you know this, yes? Yeah, they've published flyers and whatnot for parents, for anyone who needs to deal with this, on the emojis around drugs, street drugs, prescription drugs. Because if you start seeing those come through your child's feed, it's a real conversation to have, especially with the fentanyl epidemic. We've got, especially on Snapchat, we've got drug dealers who are out there willing to deliver a drug to your house, willing to deliver a fake prescription drug to your house. And it is so easy to get counterfeit prescription drugs and or street drugs that can be laced with fentanyl. They've found fentanyl in all of the street drugs at this point. Law enforcement says none of them are safe anymore with just the ingredients that are supposed to be in there. There's potential for harm. And we know that just a little bit of fentanyl can kill. And it's a real problem. It's happening to kids who think they're experimenting with something. So the message for kids is, don't ever, ever, ever take something that isn't prescribed to you in the prescription bottle for you. Even if it comes from somebody else's prescription bottle, it is not considered safe. They look identical. Don't take it.
We have heard too many stories of kids who aren't even experimenting. Their prescriptions have run out for oral surgery or something else, and are still suffering in pain and think that this Percocet or this whatever is the exact same thing that they originally got in their pill bottle from the pharmacy, and it is not. So even if you think your kid wouldn't be experimenting, they may not think they are.
That's a really good point. It's not all experimenting. Sometimes it's an honest mistake. Like I say, it looks exactly the same. Yeah.
It's been another great one.
It has.
It's been another great one. And Lisa, for those who are just tuning in and hearing you for the first time, can you please give us the contact information for people who would like to know more about the great work that you do?
Absolutely. I would love to come talk in your community. You can find me at centerforonlinesafety.com, and I would love to connect.
I'm Polly, and you've just listened to Totally Preventable.
Totally preventable.
Totally preventable.
Totally preventable. Totally preventable.